everybody, and welcome to Talk the Talk. We are so excited to have you here with us tonight for an amazing discussion about the power of speaking mindfully. I'm Alexandra Feingold. I'm the Clean Speech Campaign Project Manager. We have two incredible guests with us tonight, Dr. Sheila Nazarian and Emily Austin. Sheila immigrated from Iran to the US in her childhood. She became an award-winning plastic surgeon. You may recognize her from the Netflix series Skin Decision, Before and After. She has a huge Instagram following. Emily is a sportscaster, TV host, and has over 1 million Instagram followers. Thank you both so much for being with us tonight. For those of you who don't know what Clean Speech is a 30-day challenge to inspire people to speak more mindfully through Jewish wisdom. We're so lucky in New York City to have over 25 participating organizations, schools, and synagogues come together to share this challenge with their communities. We've had over 3,000 people participate in the challenge, and that number only can grow. Each day, participants receive a short email with a video that has Jewish wisdom and a challenge for them to speak more mindfully for that day. If you'd like to sign up for that challenge, you can do so with the link at the bottom of the screen. So we're going to have a discussion about the importance of mindful speech, and we're going to open up at the end for questions from our audience. So be sure to type your questions in the chat box below, and we will open it up. We'd love to hear from you guys at the end. And without further ado, we're going to jump into a video about what clean speech is and then start this discussion.
The average person says 860.3 million words over their lifetime. That's 7,000 words a day. 80% of that is gossip. 20% of that is useful. That's 688 million words that hurt. Words that don't build, and often words that break. What if we switch that around? Join Clean Speech for our 30-day Clean Speech detox. 30 days of mindful speech. 30 days of keeping our speech clean from gossip, slander, and bullying. 30 days of spreading words that elevate us and the people around us. We'll support you with quick and easy daily tips and reminders along the way. So sign up and spread words of love. It all starts with 2 words. I'm in.
Awesome. So Sheila, your Netflix show Skin Decision, Before and After, has garnered so much attention. Emily, you also have a huge social media following. I was wondering if we could start off just talking a little bit about how you both grew your audiences and the responsibility that being a public figure carries with it. Sheila, why don't you begin?
So I actually, my biggest platform, like Emily, is probably Instagram. And I didn't understand why I needed Instagram. I was kind of like into Facebook. And then my staff was like, no, you need to be on Instagram. Everyone's on Instagram. So about 7 years ago, I started using it mainly for before and afters and kind of my work at the spa and with surgery. Mm-hmm. And it started kind of growing. I think I was one of the first plastic surgeons on social media. I got a lot of crap. Sorry, I shouldn't use bad words. Oh my God, it's clean speech. I got a lot of,
the best of us.
Why am I an ambassador for this? I'm sure it's bad. I'm going to have the worst time in this month. Okay. So I just got a lot of backlash from my colleagues because they thought social media was unprofessional and all of this stuff. But I also went to business school too. So I knew what it took to be successful. I wasn't going to let people kind of hold me back. So I kind of kept going. I made a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of tutorials. I love fashion. I was posting fashion on Instagram, which, was pretty big back then, still is. And that kind of grew my following to about 350,000. And then we got the Netflix show. And that's when it kind of went nuts. The show was in every country in the world except for 2. Incidentally, Palestine's one of them. Yeah, but we got kind of like an international following. And then from there, I just knew I wanted to use my platform to fight anti-Semitism. And I actually hired a social media manager like 5 years ago. And she's like, what's the goal? Like, what's the plan? Are we getting more patients? Are we making more money? And I was like, no, we're fighting anti-Semitism. And she's like, okay. So it was really the goal from the beginning. And I'm just so happy that I have a platform to be able to kind of educate the masses. I think it's lovely treating one patient at a time and changing one life at a time. But I think it's amazingly fulfilling and purposeful to impact the masses. So the show helped me do that, and social media helps me do that, and I'm very grateful for it.
That's amazing. That's a huge blessing, and you're using it for such a productive way. I've seen you be so active on it today, speaking up for Jewish causes today. Emily, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, thank you for having me. It's definitely going to be a hard month for me too, Sheila. Having a platform is quite a responsibility that I don't think people fully understand how much responsibility it is. Sometimes you find out the hard way, but just having an impact on people's decisions. Like personally, I could say I get a lot of my information today from my cell phone, from social media. I'm not really like a huge TV person. I'm sure similar to both of you here, I don't have time for a TV so much. So where do I get my access information from? On my phone. And, it could very well be that one of my 1 million followers is tapping through my stories one day, and you never know what they're going to see on my story, that they'll just be like, oh, by the way, Emily posted that X happened in Israel today. Did you see that? And it's just like spreads like wildfire. But the same message that you can use to promote good could also be a hateful message that can use, to spread more hate. And I think it's very important that we're more aware of what we post. And a lot of times, I work with athletes a lot. You see these athletes say like, oh, it wasn't a big deal. It was just a post. It was just a story. Kyrie Irving was like, what's the big deal? I just posted to my story. He has more followers than the Jewish population. So if you're posting a hateful message, that's the impact you have. And I think everyone needs to understand it, especially a lot of fans are like, oh my God, it's just a social media post. No, you influence your fans, you influence your followers. And today, that's the way you get your message across. So it comes with a huge responsibility.
Absolutely. Yeah. It comes with such a responsibility, and it seems like the more you speak up for the causes that you believe in an authentic way, the more backlash and hateful comments you receive. Could you give us some examples of what you've received and how you've dealt with backlash, and what advice you have for people who are getting bullied online? Emily, why don't we start with you?
Honestly, I live peacefully knowing I speak my truth. And everybody makes mistakes, of course, and you take accountability when you do make a mistake. But as long as you say your truth, there's no regrets in life. Now, be kind, of course, and have a filter to some extent. But just always, if you're speaking your truth and somebody doesn't like you for that, you can't please everyone. There's always going to be somebody that's going to be upset about something. And I recently actually tweeted a quote I heard in Texas on a panel. One of my panelists said, you could walk on water and people will say it's because you couldn't swim. Just meaning you can always do something good and people will find something bad. And unfortunately, right now, that's the reality we live in. And obviously the three of us and hopefully everyone watching could be that one person making a change, but it is a very toxic environment. Now you could look at it as two ways. Oh my gosh, everyone hates me, I'm going to give up, which then essentially you're letting them win. Or this is my truth, I'm going to continue to speak it. And if they don't like what I have to say, there's plenty of people who do. And I know I'm fighting the good fight. And, especially the three of us fighting to be a Zionist, the Free Palestines, the group of uneducated people, basically wishing me death in my DMs. Wow. I don't think they're ever going to end, but I can't let them stop me from speaking my truth. And I think it's important to stay focused on the goal.
Wow. Okay. Sheila, I know you've had similar experiences. Can you talk a little bit about what you've encountered with backlash and hateful comments, how you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I like to make the distinction between your truth and the truth. We're not speaking our truth. We're speaking the truth. Like, I think it's a lot more powerful to take ownership of that. Like, I don't care what your truth is. There's facts and then there's feelings. Like, we're talking facts here. So it's the truth. And I agree with Emily in that, I'm just going to spin it a little bit a different way. Not that you just can't please everybody, but you can't have people obsessed with you if you don't have people who hate your guts. Like, you can't be so neutral, walking a tightrope and expect people to feel passionately for you. That's just not how life works. And I think that that's something I've learned. Another thing I'd like to echo of what Emily said is if you quit, you're allowing them to cancel you. So you can't get canceled unless you give in. So it is an active yes on your part to allow yourself to get canceled. If you keep going, when I started posting about, pro-Israel things, I lost 3,000 followers in 30 minutes. I just kept going. I was like, you know what? If I have to be able to live with myself and sleep at night and know that I'm leaving a better world for my Jewish children than there is now, and if I am quiet and scared, how are they going to feel in 20 years, right? So for me, we have to speak the truth we have to keep going. There's no cancellation unless you let it happen. If you keep going, opportunities like this will come up. Like I never would have been approached, to speak here or other places or meet Emily or other really cool people if I didn't have the courage to speak up. And I always like to remind everyone, my family didn't leave Iran for me to not have free speech in America. Like, no, I'm gonna, honor the sacrifice my parents made and have freedom of thought and freedom of speech here. I have gotten threats. I had ground up pig hooves sent to my office. I'm really good friends with the LAPD now. I have friends in the FBI. I'm armed. I went and learned how to use a gun. I have my CCW in California and many other states. I think a strong Jew is never a bad thing. So whether that's pepper spray, Krav Maga, arming yourselves, whatever it is to allow yourselves to speak up. They don't care that you're speaking up or not speaking up. When somebody is coming at you, it's because you're a Jew. It's not because you're a Zionist Jew or a non-Zionist Jew, you're a Jew. And we've seen that throughout history. So I just think that we have to put our heads together, be strong. We are in the minority. We have to recruit allies and we have to speak the truth.
Wow, you are so incredibly brave, both of you. It's so admirable that you're using your platforms with millions of people and you're not scared of being canceled. That doesn't silence you at all. Does it ever happen that like people, you choose to like engage with people online and like educate them to see your opinion? Or is it like, how do you decide whether to try to do that or just to give up? It's not worth it. Emily, what about you?
I definitely engage, and often you hear people say, don't engage, it's not worth your time, but it's exactly the opposite. It's fully worth my time, because if I'm not going to engage with them, somebody maybe less prepared will, and then the narrative will never change. Another thing is like my parents are always like, don't wear your star, don't be so vocal. And I'm like, no, I'm going to double down on it.
Wow.
I'll give you an instance in where I was heavily, figure it out, Sheila.
Mine is like, I don't know. Like
it's beautiful,
like this big. Nice teeth.
There was a specific instance in when I was heavily contemplating if I keep my mouth shut, it would be a great idea because I might get future work with this person, but if I don't, I won't be able to sleep at night. And this is when I was really just getting into basketball. I was not half as successful or even close to where I am today. And the coach of the Utah Jazz, which for those who don't know is a very good basketball team in the NBA, hosted Free Palestine. This was in the height of Black Lives Matter and in the height of the Palestinian conflict. And when I saw that, my heart shattered because I was like, no, not him. Like now everyone on the team is going to see that. But then I had a feeling he kind of knows me a little bit, not too well, but I happened to have his number and I called him up. And I was like, why would you do that? What do you know about it that you feel confident enough to post to your hundreds of thousands of followers on a message that I don't think you know much about? And he was like, you're right. Somebody who's been showing solidarity for the Black community had asked me to post it and I couldn't say no. And I told him how dangerous it was, what he just did, and how he just influenced hundreds of thousands of people to stand for a cause he doesn't even know anything about the conflict whatsoever. So I told him, listen, I explained to him why it was harmful. I explained to him how if I had done that during BLM and I spread hateful messages, and then he kind of understood more what was wrong with that. And he was very willing to have the conversation. Now, it could have gone a completely different way. He could have been totally unwilling to have the conversation, which, by the way, it was a little too late. The post was up for X amount of hours, and Damian Lillard posted it. Kyrie Irving posted it, probably because you see a coach posting it and you want to follow the masses. Mm-hmm. But, he was willing to have the conversation. He understood why it was a mistake. And I hope that my dialogue with him can now show him for the future, A, now he knows more about Israel, and I'm sure he'll share that information with his colleagues, and B, not to spread messages online where you don't really know what's going on. So I think it's worthwhile to engage, especially if you know you can make a difference.
Mm-hmm. Sheila, what do you think about engaging with people versus just giving up?
Yeah, so in the beginning, like during the conflict in May, I was engaging with anyone and everyone online. And what they do is when they DM you and you try to correct them, it could be the sweetest, most intelligent reply. They're actually DMing you so they can report you. So I was engaging with everyone. They were reporting me. I lost my ability to DM for 2 weeks, which means I couldn't do lives. I couldn't like reach out to people. So I think that DMing and engaging with people that you don't think you're going to change their mind anyway, or just complete strangers might not be worth it, not because it's not worth your time, but because of the injury it could cause to your social media. And also being shadow banned. I mean, I get little red flags on my account all the time. Like I'll be like, why are only 10,000 of my followers seeing my posts? And then, you know, I'll have my team go in and they're like, oh, you had 2 red flags because they like mass reported this post. So then they'll remove it and it'll be like 250,000 of my followers will see my posts. So I kind of have to be on top of it because sometimes I'll just post and like not pay attention. But you have to be kind of on top of it because again, having a platform and having that many followers to speak to is a responsibility, and it's something not to be taken lightly, and you want to maintain that privilege. So I would say engage with people that you know. And I'll admit, like I had a friend, not a close friend, but like, you know, an acquaintance / Instagram buddy that went ahead and posted something like Free Palestine. And I grew up in Iran, and a lot of the countries in the Middle East, as you all know now, and as it's more acceptable to talk about, they brainwash the kids from birth. Like it's in their textbooks. Like I saw a multiple choice question from an Egyptian textbook, maybe like, you know, not now. I think recently they've removed all of this stuff, but it was a multiple choice question. Like, what is a Jew? A, vermin. B, evil. C, like whatever. And then D, all of the above. So I think a lot of people don't understand that some people are just brought up to generally be nice people, except to the Jews. And the Jews have this and the Jews are that. So having grown up in that in Iran, when I saw this friend of mine post Free Palestine, I was like, your true colors came out. Like, I'm not talking to you anymore. And I don't think I was as gracious as Emily to pick up the phone and call. Another one of my friends who was a Jewish Iranian did call her, and I actually just unfollowed her. I was like, I'm done with you.
I've done that too, by the way. It happens.
Okay. So, but she actually then reached out to me via text and was like, why did you unfollow me? You should have picked up the phone and called me. And on one hand, like, I was like, I'm not responsible to educate you before you post. Like, why don't you go read about what you're about to post? But then on the other hand, I was like, well, maybe I should have called. So I think I'm like still maturing past a little bit of that trauma from when I did live in Iran and had to escape that country to come to America. So I think what Emily did is probably the right thing to do. But I will admit that I, in the past, have lacked the patience or maturity to do the same.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, you can't engage with everybody because it does pose a legitimate threat to your entire social media platform. And you have to really pick and choose who's worth it and who's not. So that's also extremely valid. And okay, so definitely online we see that negative news, it gets more likes, it gets more comments, more shares than positive news. It makes for better headlines. As a journalist, Emily, do you find the balance between reporting news that people need to know versus just giving opinions that might be critical of the athletes that you're covering? Like, how do you find that balance?
I don't do a balance. I am so stubborn as a human being, as a Gemini, as a Jew. I am the most stubborn person ever, and I will refuse to compromise my morals for my work. You know, I had a really good opportunity. There was a huge NBA player, and I was dying to break news. See, I'm not going to share it, but he had the best, juiciest news, and I knew he would have got clout off of it, and I would have got more clout breaking the news. And I asked him the question. I don't prompt them before the interview. And he had the courage to say, Emily, I really don't want that aired. Can you cut that? It's personal to me. And it was a personal thing. And I was like, of course, don't even worry about it. Of course, I'm going to cut it out. Now, obviously, it was nothing that, you know, posed a threat, nothing that I was censoring from the media. It was his personal question that I didn't know he had a problem with. I cut it out right away. Now, obviously, I would have blown up for that. But it's just not the right thing to do. And as a journalist, I see, even personally, when people write about me, I realized I wasn't looking at the camera. I notice how when people write about me, they'll always spin the truth, or especially like you see celebrities, every truth gets spun and they get the clicks. But personally, I wouldn't be able to live with myself knowing that I'm kind of doing what everyone that I hate is doing. So I will not compromise my morals. And maybe it's easy to say once you feel a little more established. Like, I don't know if a year ago, if I had a big mean boss telling me what to do, if I would be this confident in it. But right now, like having the confidence in myself, I would never tear someone down to make myself look better.
That's amazing. And that's exactly what this entire challenge is about, is like inspiring people to think about is it worth it to say that negative thing? What's the lasting impact that can happen beyond when people forget the comment? Where's like damage really caused? Is it just to the person you said something negative about, or maybe also to you? So I think that's a really good example. Thank you for sharing that. Sheila, as a plastic surgeon, I'm sure many people come to you with challenges about their self-image. And in your experience with meeting with patients, to what degree are the surgeries that people request and like their personal insecurities that prompt them to maybe get like work done affected or an impact by negative comments they could have heard throughout their life?
So I just want to throw out to the audience, whoever's watching, whatever you put out into the world is what you will attract. So on my social media, I put out natural results. I put out small breast queen. I put out confidence, professional, intelligent, and those are my patients. I've literally never had anyone walk in with a picture of somebody else and said, make me look like this, ever. Okay. We actually have a questionnaire on our intake form that says, is anyone making you do this? Did anyone say anything that makes you want to do this? So we actually screen for that, because I give all my patients my cell phone number, and they think they're interviewing me, but I'm actually interviewing them to see if I want to give them my cell phone number. Okay. But thank God, like we just attract very confident with men and women that work out and take care of themselves, but just have a stubborn area, or like they can't work out their neck skin to tighten up. Like that's just not something they can do. So really we're just attracting super sane, not narcissistic, humble, successful people that just need help with this one little thing. So thankfully, I would say maybe 1 or 2 patients a year I get that I have to turn away, that I'm just like, you're not in the right mental space. Like I would invest in that instead of this. So thank God it's been none of that. So again, it's like kind of what you put out there is what you attract. If I put out breast implants that are like triple Ds, I'm going to attract someone who wants an unnatural result. That's not my vibe. So again, I think it's about like what Emily said, stay true to yourself. For me, in my case, it's my aesthetic. For Emily, it's journalistic standards and ethics. And so you will bring people into your life. The interesting thing too, on the little amazing, cute video you played before we started this conversation, 80% of speech is gossip. Like, forget that it's gossip and that's not good, and like Lashon Hara and all that stuff. Who has the time? Like, imagine how much you could accomplish for yourself. Like if you were just like reading a book instead, or like working on your social media, or learning how to stitch better, or like whatever it is that you want to do. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how people could spend 80% of their time
Exactly.
talking badly about other people. Like, get a life. Like, come on, guys. This is like, you could be working on you.
Come on, guys. Sign up for the Clean Speech Challenge with the link below. Come on,
Yes.
guys. But definitely. So meaning your patients, you don't find that they come to you and they're like, oh, all my life I've been told that I have X, Y, or Z. Like, could you help me with that? Like, they don't really come with that type of.
No, they're like, what do you think about this? Or sometimes they'll come in for one thing and I'll be like, that thing's fine. Why don't we work on this? Or like, so I'm very honest. And if they don't need something, I'm not going to go do something, because I don't know. I feel like, they're a walking billboard. You don't want to make them look like an alien, because that's not the type of patient you want to attract. I always say too, if your surgeon or dermatologist looks like an alien, you're about to look like one too. So Really, like, you want to put out in your aesthetic, like, what you find attractive, and that's what you're going to attract. So I think it's the same thing in life. It's like what you put out into the world, whether it's with your speech or your actions, you're going to attract that karma back to you. So I think that's why we're all here today.
Exactly. That's what the Clean Speech campaign emphasizes, and it teaches us about all of the wisdom about our speech and also the practical laws that Judaism provides for how to speak in a positive way. I think people think it's some like ideological concept, but we don't really know how to get there. No, there's actually practical ways that Judaism provides that we could improve our speech. So Emily, I wonder if during your studies of journalism, avoiding negative speech was something that was discussed, or was it mainly focused about how to get on the front page and get more views?
Yeah. I've had a couple of professors. I actually took a morals and ethics class for journalism when I was a sophomore, if I'm not mistaken, or even a freshman. But my last semester in college, I had a professor who was like, you write about this one's death before they're even dead so that you're the first one to leak it. And I was like, I'm writing about I can't write about someone's cancer before they're even dead. Like, I feel like I'm manifesting bad energy. So, by the way, I did not do the whole project. I got a bad grade on it because I couldn't write about, especially she was a tennis coach that I knew. And they were like, my whole class is writing about her death that wasn't even there. And he's like, you want to be the first one to get clicks, clicks, clicks. And I was like, absolutely not. Like, I'm not even participating in this assessment. And he was a journalist. And this professor had preached to us how the more clicks you get, the more successful you'll be, which I guess is true. But, if you're going to compromise your morals, I feel like to me, that's like compromising your identity. It's like, what do you have left when you go to bed at the end of the night? And it was just so funny to me how it completely contradicted my initial professor's words of wisdom my freshman year. But more people resonated with what the journalists who liked the clicks and would use people's insecurities to get them and loved the gossip. And you could kind of tell in which direction like they go to write and, how many lives they probably hurt in their articles. And it's just like, I guess it's whoever you learn from. Like journalists, you have the good ones, they're obviously in the minority. But most journalists will thrive and make money off of other people's suffering. And it's really sad. I wish people would instate like a code of morals. And I know that there's one, but it's not reinforced. So people should actually care.
Absolutely. Also, just want to remind everybody who's watching to please leave your questions in the chat because we're going to open up for a Q&A soon. But finally, Sheila, as a woman who's broken through so many barriers, you immigrated from Iran. Can you remember a time that words specifically built you up and helped you overcome and persevere? And the time, like conversely, where they just sort of destroyed you and it left a lasting impact on you that was hard for you to recover from?
Yeah, I arrived in America in the first grade, and I always like to joke like I had a mustache and hairy legs, and we weren't allowed to like shave because my parents were like, "Who are you shaving your legs for?" Like, so I didn't speak English. Like I was an ESL total nerd. So I think at that point I got teased a lot. I got bullied a lot. I was also like super skinny. I think my like elbows were the fattest part of my arms, and my knees were the fattest part of my legs. So. I think from the beginning, I was teased a lot. I was very nerdy, just trying to like fit into this new country and new language and all of that. But I will tell you, my mom was always my biggest supporter. She was always like, "You're so beautiful. You're so smart. You're so special." Even though that wasn't the messaging I was getting at school, she was always the one that was sort of building me up at home. And I try to remember that now, being a mom of 3 myself, is that my words matter most. And I have to build the kids up. Doesn't mean I don't tell them, they messed up when they do, but really just giving them that unconditional love and support is the most important. And it's very powerful. So I think that when you asked the question, the first thing that came to my mind was kind of getting teased as a younger person, but how the words of my mom really built me up for a lifetime. And actually she passed away when I was 16. But it was just like that. I don't know, those words were so powerful and instilled so much strength in me that, having lost her at 16, they still give me energy today.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to both of you. That was so powerful. We have one question here. Someone said, just want to say how amazing and inspiring you are and giving others probably empowering inspiration to speak confidently as well. Are there any other resources you recommend to learn more about the conflict? Sometimes I feel caught off guard. So I guess they're referring to the Israel-Palestine conflict. Do you have any resources that you recommend to people for that?
I recommend Israel by Noah Tishby. I think that's a good general primer. Barry Weiss wrote How to Fight Antisemitism. I think that's a very good one too. But I will tell you, the great thing about social media, you guys, I didn't know any, like, not even a third of what I know now about Israel and the conflict and everything. The beauty of social media is they'll like say something to you, and then you'll be like, hold that thought. You go and you research it and you're like, no, but this, So I think I just by being on my phone and sort of defending my opinions, allowed me forced me to do the research to back up and show evidence of why I thought the way that I thought. So it's a little bit harder. And I still am in situations where someone will say something to me, when it's like someone says something and you're like, oh, I should have said this, like afterwards. I think that if you are having those in-person discussions, it's a little bit more challenging, but it's just like anything else. It's like getting an A in biology. It's like getting an A in math. Like you have to study, you have to put in the work, but don't do it because you want to defend yourself against anti-Semites. Do it so you know where you come from. Do it so you know where your roots are. How powerful is that? When you have those strong roots, somebody knocking you is not going to knock you down because you have those roots. Really do it for yourself.
Definitely. Do you feel like when you're posting things online and you're defending the Jewish people, like you're not just representing you, but you're also representing the whole of the Jewish people? Like, how does that impact what you say or what you post online? Emily, why don't we start with you?
I like to preface my speeches with, especially if I'm sharing a quote or something, I like to say this speaks to me. Because at the end of the day, while I'm so proud of my identity and like being a Zionist is who I am, like no matter what, that's something no one can take away from me. As much as I feel like I can represent the Jewish people, I really can't because we're all in different circumstances. So if I have a really strong opinion, I'll share it. But I love the word me, I. My mom says, stop saying I think, but I say that because I'm not sure of everything I'm saying. And I can't have that arrogance. I represent you guys. No, because it's just not true. And when anyone says, I speak for the Jewish people, I will immediately come and no, you don't. Even if what they're saying is true, I think it's a little arrogant to think that. So I never try to speak on behalf of the Jewish people. I speak on behalf of myself as a Jew, not as the people. Because a lot of Jews might disagree with me, even if I think I'm doing the right thing. And, that's just that.
I love how authentic and vulnerable you are in saying that. Like, absolutely. We're not all one. And okay, we have another question here. Marcy asks, I'm hoping to get my voice out there more and need help figuring out how to use Instagram, which seems to constantly change. What social media managers do you recommend and what is the fee?
It's a very practical question.
Very practical.
Honestly, don't even worry about that right now. I would just just literally get your phone, stick it in front of you, say what you think and post it. Like, it doesn't matter if your hair's out of place. If you said, just get started and get it out there. And don't worry in the beginning, and not a lot of people are seeing what you post anyways, but that doesn't mean it lacks value. You're sort of you're media training yourself, and you're also honing in your own thoughts and learning how to verbalize and, talk to people in a way that they'll understand and be clear in expressing your thoughts. So that's how I started. Literally one of my first viral videos, I had my cell phone set up on my coffee cup and I was like injecting Botox into my own face. And it was, if I look at that video now, it's blurry, it's faded, the lighting is awful, but it went crazy because it was authentic and people were like, whoa, like, how do you stick a needle in your own face, Yeah. And I wasn't even trying to do that. I was just trying to show my Persian community that when you get Botox, you don't like end up in the ICU, because that was like a rumor that was going around. So, I just think get started. Like that is the most important thing. You doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be a social media manager doing it. You need to find out what it is that you want to say first before bringing in other people. Because guess what? When you bring in other people, you're going to have to tell them how you like it, or you're going to have to tell them what your voice sounds like. And if you don't know what your own voice sounds like, how are you going to let somebody else do that for you?
Emily, do you have an answer for that as well?
I think she actually nailed it. I don't feel like I'm just talking. Okay. She answered it nicely.
So because both of you have like social media managers probably at this point, like how do you feel like it took a toll? Like it lessens a lot of the burden off of yourself and like takes less of a toll on your mental health? Or does the negative comments and I'm just wondering for myself, because I feel like the time I spend on social media, the joy is just sucked out of my life. And I would love a social media manager, but we all don't have million followers. So how do you does that help a lot with even living your real life and being present and being joyful and not worrying about constantly being bombarded by hateful comments and anti-Semitic comments?
2 parts. I'll answer one at a time. Does a social media manager take the burden off? Absolutely not. I hired an intern recently. He's amazing. He's brilliant, bright, but I still feel like I want to have a grip on my own social media. So even though he might have the access to the account, I'm like, I want to see what you're posting, when you're posting. You know, I kind of do everything, even though I have the help, because I just kind of want to control the narrative. And the hate comments, I think the first time hurts, and the second time it hurts a little less, and then the third time hurts even less. And at some point you stop caring. Again, personally speaking, I stopped caring at some point, unless really I messed up and then it's something I should take accountability for. If it's something that I didn't regret saying, why should I feel bad about it? And then in terms of like the burden being taken off, I don't think you can ever fully have that if you're on social media. But it's very important to distinguish, like, okay, this is now my job and it can't become your life. You need to understand that there's a balance. And, you know, I found myself in Dubai one time, the best place on earth, definitely Instagrammable. And I found myself on my phone a lot. And I was like, you know what? No, I'm going to take my pictures and I'm going to story them all in the morning and I'm going to enjoy the rest of the day. And that's what I did. Because it's easy to get carried away. It's so easy, you know, unless like you're really, really disciplined, which we're all trying to get there. But it's important to tell yourself, like, I know a lot of people said screen time. You have to be present. You can't be wasting your life on an app where, let's be real, we all show the best of the best. We're not all living our lives every day like we're in Dubai. So
you could spend all day arguing with people over Israel and Judaism.
It'll never end.
Sheila, would you like to add to that?
I did find it helpful to have my my people answer some of the comments during the conflict, and they were getting depressed. So then I had to move it off my social media manager and give it to one other person, and we would kind of rotate going through and like deleting people and blocking people or answering. So that was helpful during that time. I also have like 5 Instagrams. Like I have one where it's all surgery. And if I put surgery on my main page, then my friends will unfollow me. They're like, I was eating Cheerios and scrolled and I saw so I had to move the surgeries off to a different one, or spa is a different one. Skincare is a different one. I have a nonprofit, it's a different one. So it is a lot. And I do delegate a lot of like the skincare stuff and, you know, the spa stuff. I still have to film those videos, but that's a lot. Like the main one, the big one that I have, I manage it myself. Because again, I feel like there's been some moments where people will try to do clickbait on like a YouTube video and it'll say like, get big boobs. And I'm like, no, like not my voice. Like, I'm sure like the societies are like freaking out. So I now what I do is even if they're posting to my other accounts, I will check it before they post.
How many hours a day does that like actually consume of your time on social media?
I try to like batch it. So for example, one Monday I might film 150 videos, just answering simple questions. And then my, web team will use that for SEO. They'll use it for email marketing. We'll put it on YouTube. We can take snippets and use it on Instagram. And that's kind of my content for 2 months. Wow. So I like to sort of batch those things. And then as far as, answering comments and stuff, I try to keep it down to like an hour a day.
Okay. So it sounds really helpful to have that team managing all of your different pages. Let's look at the next question we have from Natalie. What do you recommend to students that are afraid to speak up because they are afraid of losing internships?
Okay, so I'm gonna just preface because that's my mother. We just got back from Texas. I spoke at a panel, and she was disappointed, to say the least, in how many kids admitted how afraid they were to speak up. And when I engaged with them, it was a question and answer. And I said, "Why are you afraid?" They said, "Well, I don't want to lose my internship," or "I'm the only one in the comments." And I asked them, "Well, would you say the same if your entire class was commenting on that post? Would you feel more confident, like you had a backbone?" And their answer was yes, but they're not. And I could see, I was watching my mom's heart like broke. It was so sad. And, she sees, and I'm sure Sheila can vouch for this. I mean, I could, personally speaking, I notice when I am very vocal and active, I get overwhelmed by the hate comments. And frankly, I don't see a lot of support. Now, it's not because my audience is completely non-Jews. Like, I do have a lot of Zionists and fighters against anti-Semitism following me, but they're never the ones that are vocal. And I always try to encourage them, like, why are you staying silent?
Mhm.
And you always hear the same answer, "I'm afraid, I'm afraid." Now, mommy, to answer your question, I don't know if there's a way to tell them don't be afraid, but hopefully by watching like Sheila and I, at least the two of us, there's many more people to look up to. Show like, look, we're both successful and we're doing it. You don't have to be afraid, and the only way is to inspire them. You can't tell someone, "Oh, there's no need." It doesn't work, because I didn't speak up either until I turned 20, and I visited Poland when I was 16. At 16, I was like, never again. But it took me a while to gain the confidence to speak up.
That is so powerful. And that's something I hope everybody watching takes away, is just the importance of just being authentic, speaking your truth, especially if you're Jewish. Don't compromise that. I feel like you both are such incredible role models for that. And to stay so true to yourselves with your platform, it's so brave and so inspiring.
I
So
just want to say something too. Like, I started posting like literally, we are so traumatized in Iran. You couldn't even say you were Jewish. We didn't like practice Judaism out in public. You wouldn't put a mezuzah on your door. You would never wear a Star of David. When we were in America, my kids were little and I wanted to put a little cardboard cutout of a menorah on our front gate. And my husband's like, "Don't do that. We're going to get attacked." I mean, like, it's still, we're all first generation, right? So I remember 2 years ago, my daughter, or like 3 years ago, my daughter was applying to high school, which is like makes you feel very old. But I was like, okay, she's 4 years away from college. Like, I got to start saying something. Otherwise she's going to get to these campuses and like not be able to engage in nuanced conversations or be afraid of saying she's Jewish. I don't want that for her. So I literally, on one of my Friday posts, just wrote #Shabbat Shalom. I was having a mini heart attack. Like, I was not born brave. I was not like, I didn't come out the womb with like waving the Israeli flag or anything like that. But it was just like little by little. And I always like to tell people, like, just push yourself a tiny bit out of your comfort zone, stay there for a while. And then when that gets comfortable, like, push yourself out of the comfort zone again. And so that's sort of like stepwise how I did it. I think when the Israel-Palestine conflict happened and I saw my own colleagues, like other physicians, saying genocide and occupation and apartheid and all those things, I was like, expletive, I'm not going to say it, but expletive you, I have more followers, watch me go. And that's sort of when I just was like, you know what? I had anxiety. I did not feel comfortable at all. I was looking behind my time and I just felt like I had to speak up no matter what.
That was such a dark time on social media, that everybody's mental health was just suffering so much. Even if you didn't have any followers, like, you were getting attacked just for posting anything about Israel. So I completely understand where you're coming from with that. Looking for the next question. Danielle asks, as a doctor in New York, I feel very nervous about speaking my mind about the Palestinian-Israel conflict. Do you feel that this has impacted your practice or patient population?
Okay, so I am in the heart of the beast, right? I am in Los Angeles. And I not only came out as like Zionist, I'm also conservative leaning, because you have to understand, like, us Persians or Russians or Cubans or South Americans, our trauma comes from socialism and communism, which we associate with the language of the left. I understand Ashkenazi Jews associate, Nazi Germany and that kind of verbiage with the language of the right. And so both of us were like, how could you vote this? And how could you vote that? So I actually came out as like pretty moderate, but conservative leaning and a Zionist all at once. It was beautiful. And what happened, and I thought I was literally like, oh my God, I'm going to lose all my patients. I don't care though. Like I'm comfortable, you know, like even if I never get another patient, like, you know, I made it, I'm fine. And exact opposite thing happened. Literally, I would walk in a room, my patient's naked because she's post-op, and she's like crying, and she's like, I loved you before. I'm obsessed with you now. And they're like trying to hug me naked. And I'm like, you're naked. So the exact opposite. I have gotten A-list, like national treasure celebrities come to me because they align with my views.
Wow.
It would never come out and say, you know, I'm a Zionist or, you know, whatever, fiscally conservative or whatever they want to say. But because they appreciate the authenticity, it has brought so much good into my life. And I think God rewards the authentic. And I always want to say too, obviously I'm coming from a place of love. Obviously I see the world through the lens of my experiences and my upbringing and what I had to go through to come to America. So, and how appreciative I am to be here. As you guys can see everything happening in Iran right now, like, thank God my parents had the foresight to say there's no future for our daughters in this country. And they left everything and moved. And so I just feel like I have to honor that and speak up and speak my mind and make sure that America doesn't go down the same road that Iran did. And it's been the most rewarding thing.
I just want to add a point before we go to the next question. I was also fearful because I was like in the middle of college when the height of the Palestinian conflict happened. And I was really worried about job opportunities. And I actually also, similar to Sheila, noticed the exact opposite happen. I got a call a month ago from Miss Universe, and they were like, oh, do you want to judge the pageant? Like, you're so well spoken and we love your interviews. And I was like, oh, they love my sports. So cool. I love sports. And then they were like, no, we love your activism even more. And I was like, is being a Zionist helping me right now? Oh my goodness. This I never thought would happen. And I was so happy. And now I'm telling all these high schoolers, I got Miss Universe for being a Zionist. And I hope that they could understand, like, you're not going to lose your internship. In fact, they'll admire you for speaking up. So kids, you're not losing your internships. Danielle, you're not losing your patience.
Also, I just want to throw out there too that I gave a talk at Hillel UCLA like a month ago, and one of the students raised her hand and she was like, I feel like, you know, my professor's anti-Semitic, or they say things that are not true, but I'm afraid to like speak up because I'm afraid I'm going to get a bad grade. And then there was another graduate of UCLA that was actually in the audience, and she raised her hand and she said, I had the same professor. I actually went against everything she said. I wrote my thesis against what she said, and I got an A, and the professor at the end of the course thanked me because my, you know, objecting to what she was saying made the conversation deeper, and it made it a more meaningful conversation. So I say, speak up, speak loud, be proud. And again, don't think of just yourself. You are laying the path for your little sister, your little brother, your cousin, your own kids. If we don't speak up now and allow this to just keep going, you know, how is it going to be for them?
It's a Band-Aid.
Absolutely. Wow, this was so powerful and inspiring. We are so grateful and feel so blessed to have had both of you on here talking tonight. This is really incredible. You're such role models. To our audience, if you have been inspired tonight to improve your speech, to learn how to harness the power of your speech, please sign up at www.cleanspeech.com/NYC at the link below and start the 30-day challenge to speak more intentionally. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. And yeah, we look forward to connecting in the future.